Faith, I am so excited to have you here today. I'm a big fan. I've been following your account for a while,
Oh,
and
thank
I'm
you.
excited about your upcoming book. Just a lot of goodness, and I can't wait to dive in. So, first, easy question. How are you?
I am full, full. I always try to be like completely transparent and not just give the socially acceptable, I'm great, everything's wonderful, I'm blessed and highly favored. I am all those things. And I also am full of just things. Things are very hectic and busy right now. It's the beginning of the school year. So my daughter had her first full week of school last week. All the back to school mumbo jumbo that
Yes.
happens. I also have a 2-year old who like is in daycare. So there's that, doing a lot of like prep for my book release, just still seeing my clients. So, and doing a lot of press. So I'm full of things to do, and I am grateful for those things as well.
I love the word full because it can mean so many things, right? It's
Hmm.
like, but I think full actually encapsulates what you talks about, which is like a slight amount of discomfort because there's a lot
Uh-huh.
going on,
Oh, yeah,
right? You've got a
yeah,
lot
yeah,
going on, like you
yeah,
full, but also full of goodness. Like if you've eaten
yeah.
a good meal and you've gotten full, right? There's like that discomfort, like, okay,
Oh,
there's a lot
yeah.
going on here.
Right, right. And I should have stopped like 2 pieces of bread ago, but
Yes,
I
yes,
didn't, right?
yes. But it's goodness. Like I
Yeah.
don't also feel like, oh, it's terrible. It's like, oh, this is great, but
Right,
I'm full.
right.
And I love your honest and transparent answer with that because you could have just said I'm good.
Yeah, yeah. Honesty and transparency really is all I have. I tell people that all the time. I'm an open book because it takes too much time and effort and space to try to keep up with pretenses, right? If you tell something that's not completely true, like you got to remember that when somebody else asks it or it's asked in a different
Yes.
like space or context. So if I'm always honest, I don't ever have to keep up with
Yes.
foolishness, right? It's just easier that way and it doesn't like take up space in my brain.
That is very true. There's that, and then it's like I can't regulate my mouth enough to say anything but the truth, so it keeps it
Right.
easy. It's like, oh, bleh, it's just gonna come out. Kelly, we ask Kelly a question, you go get an answer. So the
Right.
good news is I don't have to worry about it for very different reasons.
Mhm.
But I respect it all the same.
Thank you.
And that kind of amount of transparency and honesty that you bring to the space is why I want to
Mhm.
talk to you and where I want us
Oh,
to
thank
kind of
you.
start. I
Thank
really
you.
want to start there because you have a very unique journey. It's not that you're just incredibly skilled with words and have built
Mhm.
this beautiful community, but your own healing journey began after a traumatic brain injury. So I
Absolutely.
wanted to know, how did that experience reshape the way you relate to self care and your own mental
Wow.
health?
I honestly think it just like me telling you honestly and transparently how I'm feeling. Um, m- my self care and health, mental health and wellness journey did not become honest and transparent until I had the car accident and was diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury, which is, less than favorable to say when you are a mental health professional, right? Because the expectation is that you're always honest and transparent. And to a certain extent, you are, but there's also this level of honesty and transparency that I believe you don't get to until you get to it. You know how like like when you were growing up, your parents used to be like until you're an adult, you won't understand. Until you've been through some things, you're not going to get it,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And as a kid, you're like, okay, dad and mom's getting old, and they don't know what they're talking about. But like, you don't understand the struggle of providing for a family until you have a family. You don't understand how to make ends meet until you have to make ends meet, right? So it was not until I was put in a position to have to choose between a future of health and wellness, right? And recovery, and then the facade of always being okay, that I actually had to figure out how to start being okay. Before then, I think I was pretending to be okay. I was wearing the strong Black woman, superwoman cape, and I was
Preach on
doing
that.
right.
Yes,
I was
yes, yes.
doing all the things, and I was saying yes to everybody, and I was the friend you could always call on for any and everything, even at the last minute. Like I was that person that was doing the job of a mental health professional and telling people how they should care or self-care, and I was doing a mediocre job of it for myself at best, right? And that's just the full truth of it. Like I can't even sugarcoat that because that's my truth.
And I think, first of all, thank you for that, because I think so many people can relate to that. I relate to that on many different levels. One, I'm
Mm-hmm.
also a mental health professional, and
Oh
so
wow,
I
okay.
understand,
Mm-hmm.
on that level about the incongruence that can happen sometimes without you even noticing, right? To be
Mm-hmm.
fair, no
Mm-hmm.
one's out here trying to pretend something is different. It's just it slowly starts this gap,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
between who you are and what you're showing up as, or what you're trying to
Mm-hmm.
model for the people you work with, and it
Mm-hmm.
gets wider and wider and wider. And before you know it, you're like, wait a minute, I am not the person
Right.
I am showing up. But you don't often realize that
Mm-hmm.
until something happens that's big,
Right.
that shakes
Right.
your world a little bit, to
Mm-hmm.
make you look. And I think even though it happens in a professional context, if you're a therapist, I think it happens to our audience, people who are listening, in many
Yeah.
ways, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
an event happens and it shapes their world, it rocks their world, and it makes them think about these things.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, I watched people and counseled people going through things that brought them to their like most authentic, transparent, raw, naked selves, right? And all along I'm like applauding them and great job. You're doing the work. And all along I wasn't really doing the work because I didn't really need to do the work, right? Like it wasn't nothing had happened significant enough in my life to force me into the space of having to do the work. Not that that should be a necessity, not that that should be, a prerequisite. However, the truth of it is, um, for a lot of us, it's not until we are put into an impossible situation where we have to make the choice that we actually make the choice, right? Like it's for a lot
Yes.
of us, it's not, we don't get our lives together and eat healthy and drink water and move our bodies and all these things until we go to the doctor and they're like, you have high blood pressure, you have high cholesterol, all of these things, or they have to put you on medication for something. And then you're like, whoa, wake up call. Let me get myself in some order. Before then, there's no sense of urgency to do it. And it's not that we're being negligent or intentionally negligent. I think we're just living life and we're just trying to survive, right? We're just trying to get through the day. We're just trying to be dedicated to our spouses or our partners. We're just trying to keep these kids alive and fed. We're just
Yes.
trying to like do our jobs. We're just trying to keep the bills paid. And so doing the work and all of the self-maintenance type stuff always seems to be like somewhere in the back burner. Like you feel it there in the back burner, but you're not really too much concerned about it.
I
Right.
agree. And I agree completely. And I think the word you said is, it's not we're being intentional in,
Mm-hmm.
the misrepresentation or the ignoring. But I think that is it. It's that we're not
Mm-hmm.
being intentional in every
Mm-hmm.
sense of the word. It's like there
Mm-hmm.
is no intention to check in and reflect. There's
Right.
also no intention to misrepresent or to be
No.
incongruent or betray ourselves or
Mm-hmm.
any of those things. But there is no intention. There is no mindfulness. And I think
Right.
in that is, in this podcast, we talk about opting out of struggle, right? About how we
Mm-hmm.
let go of that. And the first step to that is what you're kind of highlighting, which is this intentionality piece. And
Mm-hmm.
and that's something I want to really focus in on. I want to pause this here because there's so much more to talk about with you. So much. We're
Okay.
just getting started, y'all. We're just getting started. But I want to talk a little bit more about that shift for yourself and intentionality and how you built
Mm-hmm.
this community,
Oh
how you've
wow.
left
Okay.
behind toxic hustle mindset and toxic
Mm-hmm.
hustle culture. Like, let's continue to pull at that thread a little bit more and
Mm-hmm.
see how you've built what you've built.
Okay.
So, more to come with Faith. We'll be back and we'll be talking a little bit more about how Faith builds community, how Faith finds intentionality in her life today.